Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. Some more breaking news about Tiger Woods and Tom Brady take some shots at the New England Patriots.
Happy hump day, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
There goes that man's jock strap. Oh my God, did you see that?
America's team? Yeah, right.
Oh, baby, it's a big day in sports. There's nothing like battling it out with your teammates all season long to go win a championship. Green Bay's got it this year. Huge move for them. I think it's going to be a game changer.
We have a lot to talk about this busy week in the sports world. Welcome to the In a League of Their Own podcast.
Hey, man, how's it going today?
Just fantastic. How's it going with you?
It's going wonderful. Beautiful weather outside. I was hoping to get in around a golf, but I don't think that's going to happen today here, unfortunately. But I'm just going to dive into it right away here. So it turns out Tom Brady has taken some shots at the New England Patriots. He did an interview with Good Morning America. He came out stating that the Patriot way basically isn't the only way to be successful in the NFL, as he was a part of that culture for 20 years. He said that when he left and he got down to Tampa, that he really had his eyes open up to see kind of what other methods were being used out there and if there was any different approach to still be successful in the NFL. Obviously, Tom goes down there, wins a Super Bowl in his first year, and you hear him say nothing badly about Bruce Arians, or you hear no bad news coming out of Tampa at all. So clearly there's many more ways than just one than up there in New England with old Bill to get the job done. And it's good to see Tom Brady, especially the greatest quarterback to ever play, to be open and talk about that, to give guys hope to maybe where they thought that they had to get to a team to get to a certain role, where there's other ways to do it. You just got to find that right fit.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like, although it's like you mentioned, the Patriot way, it's like a winning culture. Kind of what happened in Tampa Bay last year. It just seemed like a more fun way, like the way the game should be played. Like everybody who ever comes out of the Patriots, they move to a different team, kind of talks about like, oh, I'm glad to be out of there. Like it was like fucking super strict and like you're getting harped on a lot about shit. Which I mean is definitely a way to develop a winning culture, not have anybody fall through the cracks, not have anybody slacking off. But at the same time, like you want to have fun with whatever you're doing in life, whether you're playing football or working at an office or whatever you're doing in life for your career. Obviously you want to have fun doing it. So it definitely seems like there's a big shift in that, like you said, once Brady went down to Tampa Bay, which obviously too, being in Florida, better weather, stuff like that too. New England's usually a colder, kind of grittier atmosphere. But then also you look over at Green Bay Packers, which are kind of in that same climate zone of the frozen tundra. It's definitely a more like family fun atmosphere of this team. So um, yeah, it's interesting to see. Like I said, as more and more players come out about talking about the Patriots, and it's kind of interesting now with Tom Brady again being one of the greatest of all time to come out and say something. His words weigh a lot, and people listen when he talks about it. So it'll be interesting to see if more people come out or less people are opt to want to go to the Patriots or try to go to these other teams.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like we've talked about many times off the air before we even had to start this podcast, the idea to start this podcast. The Patriots, they had it down to a science, basically. Like you knew that they were down at half. They'd make whatever changes they'd make almost every single game, and they'd come in and blow the roof off the second half. That's because Bill, he's like a mastermind of what to do with the defense, where back at that time, I don't even recall who was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots for the majority of his time. Do you remember?
No, like Josh McDaniels was like the most recent, or is the most recent one.
Yeah. But anyway, so you have someone like him who kind of just let Tom do his thing. They had all the weapons for him. I mean, they weren't. The NFL is just so different now. I guess I don't even really know, I guess, where I was going with that. I should say. I was about to say, like, yeah, they didn't have, like, they had Randy Moss for that 1 year, but that's like basically the biggest superstar that they've had. Otherwise, they've done it with guys that just work hard, who are third, fourth, fifth round guys, kind of just running the Patriot way. You come in here, you're going to maybe not play for a couple years. When you get in, you're going to do your job, that type of thing. It's really quiet, New England. You don't really hear any news coming out of obviously, the only two things that I can think of ever hearing from the Patriots within the last probably 10 years was the Aaron Hernandez thing and then Tom Brady leaving.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, aside from that, all of their troubles with getting caught cheating and stuff like that too,
That's
with their
right.
Deflategate, their stealing film from
Spygate,
So there's been a couple things like that.
Watergate.
Watergate.
I was just throwing a joke in there.
Oh, I was gonna say that's Nixon. um, but yeah, I don't know. The Patriots have always kind of had, as much as they've won Super Bowls. Put that aside, there isn't a whole lot of good to be said that like people have to say about them. Again, with their cheating scandals and stuff like that, and just their whatever goes on behind closed doors there to get these guys into shape. Um, I
Hey,
don't
but
know.
they did pay the price though. The
Oh
NFL
yeah,
did what they did with them, and they suffered the consequences to that, and still retained and still were able to do what they did. I don't think any other franchise is ever going to have a chance to do what they did.
no,
Like that
not in
was
our lifetime
absolutely
at
no,
least,
that
probably.
was absolutely incredible, and I'm glad I was alive to see that Tom
Well,
Brady
another
just
thing too,
dominating.
with like stuff, like mishap with that organization. Robert Kraft with his whole thing was that 2 years ago where he
Yeah,
like prostitutes or whatever that he got.
he
Um,
kind of did the same thing that Deshaun Watson did, except for
he's got
he
more
got caught
money.
on video, and he's got billions compared to Deshaun Watson money, and he doesn't have 22, 23 females accusing him of this. Like he got caught red-handed on video. Like
Yeah,
the Watson case is a little bit different because I don't think there has been any video released. If there has been any, I haven't seen it. I doubt it's going to be released
you'd think. Well, I don't know. You'd think
because a lot of it
because
happened in massage places and like at his house.
yeah, you
So
think in
you'd
the
think
massage
somewhere that,
places
yeah,
they
you'd think
there
they'd at
wouldn't
least
be a
have him on
camera.
camera, or you'd think they'd at least have him walking through the door.
Well, yeah, that, but like there's not going to be
So
cameras
saying, hey,
in
he
the
was at least
rooms.
in here on all these dates that he's being accused of,
Yeah,
type of thing.
but you're not going to have video proof in these rooms because people are sitting there naked getting a massage. So obviously that's like you don't have cameras for that. Like you don't have cameras in a bathroom or a locker room for that reason.
You'd hope not.
Um, but
Some
yeah,
people are weird.
yeah, I guess you never know. Maybe a video does come out about like a surveillance or something that catches them.
So if I do recall, there was a story last year of a high school. Fuck. I don't remember what high school it was, but it was a high school, I think somewhere in Wisconsin, traveled to a different state or something for like an event. Turns out all the rooms had cams in them, dude.
Like,
Like, to watch high school kids.
oh shit.
Yeah. I don't I don't remember how recent or how long ago that was, but I'm like 99.9% positive that happened.
Oh, I
Yeah,
don't
dude.
doubt it. There's some
People
fucked up
do
people.
people do some weird things, but yeah. And then how about jumping over to the Washington football team? They hired the NFL's first Latina coordinator. She will serve as the coordinator of football programs for the Washington football team. Her name is Natalia Durantes. She will be the third woman to have this job in the NFL in total, but she will be the first woman to fill this role in the NFL. So shout out to her. That's awesome to see Washington football team doing what they're doing with the whole name change. Now they're involving a whole bunch of outsiders to get involved, like giving people great opportunities, equality. Like that's what we want to see here in the United States.
Hmm.
So shout out to them for getting that done. Yeah, you'd like to see that. You'd love to see that.
Yeah, and like even with think it like we are just talking about the Bucks. I know they too. Um, between them and the Chiefs, there was like I think at least 5 women who were like coaches, and that like it was the most women coaches in a Super Bowl. So hopefully that number just continues to climb every year as teams kind of or just teams in general not in the Super Bowl where as positions become available, there's either minorities that are getting more shots. I know there was back in the early 2000s. What was it? There was a rule passed in the NFL that when a position becomes available, they have to um, interview at least. I don't remember what the number is. It's like 3 or 5, whatever the number is, of a minority for that
I think it's
position.
3.
They have to at least interview them. Obviously, that doesn't mean shit because they could just say, "Oh, we picked three people." Maybe they don't even interview them. They say, "Oh, we interviewed these people and whatever."
I bet they'd interview them. They just probably would just already know the decision going into the interview. So it's like
Yeah. So
not an interview.
it's a good move for the NFL to kind of have that, but at the same time, it needs to be more like in favor of these people actually getting the jobs because anybody can interview for a job, but
It's
it's
like
a
I'd love to see a fucking woman be an NFL head coach.
oh
Like that'd
yeah,
be dope. That'd be so cool to see. Same in the NHL. I'd love to see a woman become an assistant coach, either like a offensive coach, defensive coach, head coach. I'd love to see a woman break through in the NHL and get a job in the NHL as well. I'm sure there are a few within some of the organizations, but I'd like to see it more on like the main stage of like, hey, you women, you can do this too. Like it's not just a men's sport. Like
yeah. I think honestly, the first professional organization that was going to have it would be the NBA. Is going to have a women's head coach first, just because
yeah, that's probably
you look at their ranks. Like right now, you have women that are coaches that are like a step a step or two below the head coach right now. So the gap is a lot closer. Whereas in the NFL, you have like head of football like football programs, strength and conditioning coaches, like stuff like that that these women have roles in, which again is awesome. But there's a lot of ground to make up between because then you assistant to the D coordinator, like quarterback coach, like stuff like that. Um, that's kind of the next step for women in the NFL. Yeah, the NBA is probably the closest to having a women's coach, which is weird because of the lack of presence of like the WNBA and just how kind of that's been a talking point this year of how there's that big gap between the NBA and the WNBA. So maybe that's a good step for them if they can get their first head coach or even like assistant head coach in the NBA. That's obviously a big move for them there to maybe kind of put some respect on the WNBA. Whether it's ex woman who played in the NBA or the WNBA or an ex coach from there, whatever it might be. But
so. Which
um,
sport do you think should be last?
probably the NFL. Just because, like I said, there's that huge gap right now between head coach and the position that these women are in. Well,
Even
even like
for football, you can consider an offensive and defensive coordinator
yeah,
equal-ish position.
yeah, that's true. Um, but yeah, I can't really think of any women who are like position coaches because like that's like position coach is the step right before you become a D coordinator usually. Um, Otherwise, the last one I could actually see would be the MLB. because it's really just like you have a batting coach, you have the manager, and really there's only a handful of people who really run that team. And I can't think of like the last time I've seen a headline of, oh, this woman is now a part of this coaching staff on this MLB team. It's all fucking old ass dudes that are managers for these teams. So
Yes, it
hopefully,
is.
hopefully that might be a good change too coming up as like all these guys are old. Like really, a lot of them are pretty old. I mean, heck, Craig Counsell is probably one of the youngest ones, honestly, as a manager, and he's got to be in his 40s. So I don't know. Maybe once that kind of this era of older guys managing these teams, maybe women start to kind of get their hat thrown into the picking for these new managers and stuff. But yeah, definitely between the MLB and the NFL, that probably women are going to be having these higher up roles on these coaching staffs.
Yeah. And then my last point here that I got for the NFL for today, news about Team 3, Russell Wilson. Carlos Dunlap has said that he has spoken with Russell Wilson and he has stated he is staying in Seattle. What do you think about that? Do you think it's all smoke? Do you think he's just trying to not get his teammates to turn against him before the season starts when he wants out so that everybody's not like, oh, he wanted to be here so bad when on the other end of the phone he's saying, get me the fuck out of here.
I think he's just trying. The Dunlap is just trying not to stir the pot on the whole situation. Obviously, if he comes out and says, "Yeah, I talked to Russ," he said he still has interest in wanting out. That's just making this story more interesting, and like I said, stirring the pot. So who who knows if again if he's just blowing smoke or if there's any validity to what he's saying and whatever it might be. Again, I feel like it's going to be post draft or even like just around the week of the draft before we actually see um, some change that might be happening with Russell Wilson making a move. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a while before we actually get some news on him.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think anything's going to happen. If anything is going to happen, it's going to happen, like I said, and you just stated it's going to happen right on or around really close to the draft time. Teams really need to kind of get all their ducks in a row, chips together if they're going to make a trade for Russ. They're going to have to offer up something pretty good, as they didn't take 3 firsts and 2 players from the Bears. So clearly they still want Russ, as it seems. We'll see who wins, player or the organization. More times than not, the organization wins, but we shall see this time.
Yeah. It kind of a couple more points before we wrap up the NFL here. Um, So, brief point about Deshaun Watson. Nike and Beats by Dre withdraw their sponsorships with Watson just over the last day or two here, as names of women have kind of come out giving their testimonies and statements as the case is now turned to criminal investigation. Again, every day that goes by looking less and less good for Deshaun Watson. And obviously, once he starts losing sponsors, you don't really get those back because they, um, unless it all gets washed and it's all like a less than 1% chance that it's all just a fake way to go and get them, which I know it's not. But these these sponsorships know what they're doing. They don't withdraw their sponsorships off of something that's on the fence that might or may not happen. Deshaun Watson's he's getting tried criminally in some way, whether it's jail time or whatever it might be. So, and kind of sticking with some like jail time here. Ex Florida State receiver Travis Rudolph has been charged with murder. Uh, Rudolph was the leading receiver for Florida State in 2015 and 2016. After that, he had some time with the Dolphins, Giants, and in the Canadian Football League. Had a um, pretty short career. Only had 8 catches for 101 yards. which kind of goes back again to these guys that come early into the league with 8 catches, 101 yards, maybe only add a year or two in the NFL, and then falls off, whether it's drug or alcohol issues or women issues or whatever it might be. And now,
CT.
yeah, and now this guy's apparently just killed somebody. So, um, yeah, always sucks talking about these stories, but seems like once a week we talk about somebody fucking up. Mostly from the NFL, it seems like too.
Yeah, I mean, study has shown players in the NFL do take the most head trauma, and hockey's right behind them. I mean, like, I feel like the main difference is the NFL players make so much money where they think they're invincible, maybe. Where in the NHL, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm making good money, but I'm not a bajillionaire. You know what I mean? It's not like there's no guaranteed really anything in the NHL. I mean,
No,
there is your signing bonus. That's pretty much it. But
yeah,
yeah, it's crazy that we do end up talking about someone fucking up. Usually more than once a week.
yeah,
There's somebody that's doing something that they get caught up in something where they shouldn't be doing it, and we don't like to see it. But at the same time, it's news for us. We are the media, so we're always going to share those share those with you. And I mean, we can even rip on the guy if we really wanted to. I mean, that's not my stance, and I don't think that's your stance here on the show either.
no,
But we're glad that justice is being served, and he's been arrested, and we'll see what happens to him.
yeah. I did have one more point. I thought I had two. I do have a third point here.
Yeah, go for
Uh,
it.
Giovanni Bernard, released after 8 seasons with the Bengals. Um, had a notable career on the Bengals. As much as you could say about the Bengals, who have been kind of irrelevant since Carson Palmer left. Um, where do you think a 29-year-old vet lands? Is there a team that maybe, I know we kind of talk about from the draft with like Najee Harris and Etten land where they might land in the draft. Um, Now you have a seasoned vet who has proven that he can be productive. Obviously, the workhorse for that Bengals team. All 8 years he was there. Do you kind of see him hanging it up maybe, as 8 seasons is kind of that usual mesh point of a running back hanging up their career, unless you're Frank Gore and you're going to play till you're 70. But um, yeah, do you see any where he might move to next?
Oh, that's a great question, Giovanni. He's been a great back. Uh, he's been a great back for as long as he's been in the league. I mean, a lot of teams do have, two guys, but I could see him maybe fitting in with the backing up Christian McCaffrey, maybe. The Giants, Saquon, goes down a lot. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe. So clearly, they think Mixon's the guy then in Cincinnati, since they let him go. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Denver needs a guy as well. I mean, a lot of teams would be thankful to get a guy who's a vet like that, who's got 8 years underneath his belt, who can maybe a team that's going to take a running back or has a young running back who they want him to learn a little bit more, get a little bit more experience. Having a guy there is kind of like the mentor. So I could see him going to a team with a young back and being that guy that's kind of like the Adrian Peterson type guy, where showing these young kids how to do it to keep this running back evolving, because everything the way that it's looking, it's like it's turning to, we're not really using running backs to run that much anymore. The quarterbacks are kind of running.
Mm-hmm.
now. So it's good to see the running back position hang around. It's like you don't want to see the fullback position die either. There's only a handful of teams that use one. So, yeah, I feel like he could really, really help out some young guys in the league. Or he hangs it up, like you said, and maybe he just becomes a running backs coach somewhere.
Yeah. Otherwise, another team you had mentioned the Panthers, another NFC East team, or no, well, Panthers are South. Another NFC team would be Washington football team. Really, the only running back they have is that Antonio Gibson, who just had his rookie year last year, a good rookie season at that. But um, Bernard's kind of your smaller bruiser, like short yardage running back. Um, a lot of it kind of seems like it's hit and miss now with guys coming out of the draft or just guys that are being signed period even as free agents. A lot of them are kind of quicker open field guys where you don't really have a lot of smaller bruiser running backs anymore. I mean, really the biggest two would be Saquon and Zeke Elliott are kind of your two, I guess, top 5 running backs that are versatile no matter what. They got open field speed and they can get you a couple short yards running over a
Derrick
couple
Henry,
guys. Derrick Henry as well. Which
for
is
how big
surprise
that man is, he
yeah,
can
it
run.
surprises me when he gets in the open field how he can fucking outrun these defensive backs. You'd think that he'd be one of those guys that gets caught, but also when you're that tall, your strides, you're probably covering more ground these smaller guys at the same time. So,
I'm sure he did a lot of track running growing up. I'm sure he
oh
learned
yeah.
how to run. But yeah, that man can book it. Dalvin Cook, too. He's another one
Mhm.
who can take it for 98 or get you a 3.
Mhm. When he's healthy. I feel like
He's
that's an ongoing thing. I feel like for a lot of NFL running backs is the injury
Dude,
bug
you get
is getting after them.
fucking hit though, man. Like that's why the average you're lucky if you make it 3 years as an NFL running back. Lucky. Like you get your ass kicked, man. I mean, I even did a little bit of carrying it back in the day, back in like sophomore year of high school, freshman year of high school. Fuck, even then getting hit sometimes would really hurt. And then just thinking that you're just increasing speeds on both ends, weight on both ends, aggression, anger, energy on both ends. And it just, they say it's like every hit is like getting in a car accident
Oh yeah.
in the NFL. And that's because your feet are planted in the ground. Where like hockey, it's a little bit safer, it's more safe due to you being on your skates. So your feet aren't really ever planted like completely down in the ground, so you're kind of free flowing and moving. But yeah, dude, I couldn't even imagine. But yet again, pay me a meal, I'd stand out there and take those shots for 17 games.
Yeah. Um, that's kind of all I had with the NFL. I don't know if you had any more points to add
No,
there.
that's all I had for the NFL as well.
All right. Switching over, the headline for the day is Tiger Woods. What do you have on him today?
So it turns out the sheriffs had came out and said that with all the investigation and stuff that they've done around the scene, turns out it was a 45 mile per hour zone. Turns out he was going 75 miles an hour. So he was hauling ass. Um, if you've seen any pictures of um, if you can see any pictures of like the windy road that he had his accident on, you'd be like, why in the fuck would you be going 75 miles an hour? Who knows? I mean, he has been on medication and stuff from his last surgery that he had, but they
Wasn't he supposedly late for a meeting? Wasn't that speculation? I don't know if that was ever confirmed.
Yes. Originally, speculation was he was like in a rush. He was golfing somewhere in the morning, and then he was in a rush to get somewhere to get to a meeting. But then, obviously, he got in a crash, and I was just looking at this. So it looks like actually his vehicle was going between 84 and 87 miles an hour in a 45 when his car hit a tree. They're giving him no traffic citations, no evidence of impairment or distracted driving, so no probable cause to get a warrant or anything.
And that makes sense because it's only speculation of how fast he was going. They don't have actual proof, so they can't really give him a citation saying, "Oh, you're going this fast." It's just all calculation, like guessing how fast he was going.
So it turns out instead of hitting the brakes, because there was no evidence of him slowing down at all in this whole entire thing. So instead of him actually hitting the brake, he said he hit the gas on accident and took him down. So because there's nothing, detectives aren't seeking any search warrants for blood samples. They're not. They didn't really do anything to him. They kind of just let him go.
Is
He's
he out?
healing.
He's out of the hospital now. I'd imagine so. He didn't have like internal injuries. He just had like broken legs and whatnot. So I'd imagine he'd be out by now because this was at least a month ago now. I think, if I remember correctly, if not longer.
Oh, okay. I didn't get to this part. So this is what happened. So Tiger, who's from Los Angeles area, he was back home to host a PGA tournament, the Genesis Invitational at the Riviera Country Club. He was driving a 2021 Genesis GV80 SUV lent in by the tournament. He was coming up over a hill and he smoked a raised median, which then threw him through two crossed lanes. He uprooted a tree on the downhill stretch. And then that's when he was all windy and shit. So he just must have been in complete panic mode and hit the gas instead of hitting the brakes and took it straight into a tree.
Hmm.
Man, that's good to see he's still okay, though. I was watching, was it the McAfee show yesterday, I want to say? And they were talking about Tiger. Do you think he's going to come back? Think he's going to make a comeback?
I I hope so. Like we kept one of our first episodes, we briefly talked about it when he actually had his accident. Um, yeah, I mean, kind of looking at his history of injuries he's had. Obviously, this one's a little probably the most severe one he's had, especially because it's not wear and tear; it's an actual accident. There's trauma involved with it. There's rehab, all that to come back from. But like we said too, he's only a handful of wins away from solidifying himself as the greatest golfer of all time. So, I mean, broken legs heal. You can come back from that. It's not like he won't be able to ever walk again. I'm sure he's getting the best treatment and rehab and attention that money can buy. So, yeah, I definitely could see him coming back. I don't think there hasn't been any speculation of him hanging up.
Yeah, yeah. And then I also did look the other day how we talked about the senior tour, and you mentioned it was 65, and then I mentioned it was 60. Turns out it's 50. Once you're
Oh,
50, you can golf on the senior tour. You don't have to, but you can.
so you can continue on the regular
If
PGA
you're good
tour.
enough to make it, if you're good enough to keep golfing, yeah.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you got to go to the senior tour. Because like you'll see events every now and then where you got an old guy, like Fink, whatever his name is, Furyk, just
Oh, Jim Furyk.
yeah, he's old as dirt.
Oh
You'll
yeah,
see him out there every couple tournaments. Like obviously they're not golfing in all of them, but they're still good enough to. They finished
yeah,
last, but it's like, hey, they're still out there fucking golfing with the
yeah.
pros.
I'm sure there's certain courses that they like that they golf well on. So that makes sense why they make an appearance once in a while. Where over their career, like Augusta National or TPC Sawgrass, whatever course that it might be, is kind of like their favorite course. I could see them making an appearance on that. Um, yeah, I mean it's cool to see some of these old guys still doing it, where they as soon as they hit 50, they don't switch over to the senior tour. Um, Obviously, so long as they keep making the cut and stay relevant, why not stay in the main tour?
Oh, for sure. And then sticking with Augusta National, EA Sports came out and said the next golf game that they are putting out, Augusta National, the Masters, will be back in the game. So that is going to be really cool. I want to say the Masters was only in the first golf game that they had put out a long time ago. I remember playing it. I want to say it was Tiger Woods 2014 maybe. So it was a long time ago. Glad to see that it's coming back, making its way back. So us average golfers who love the game, we can get out there with our guy and shoot a sick round at the Masters. And then along the lines of golf as well, we will be having 2 interviews that will be dropping within the next tomorrow's Thursday. So we will have 2 interviews dropping within the next 3 days, within our next 3 episodes, I should say. So by Monday, we should be having 3 interviews released, unless we want to do a little bonus content for you and we decide to release it over the weekend. We haven't fully decided what we want to do yet, but there will be 2 interviews coming with golf here, since we got the Masters coming up. They're starting teeing off tomorrow. So pumped for that. Do you want to shout out who we got here?
Yeah. Briefly mentioned yesterday's episode. 2 days ago, I posted on our Instagram For Golf. We'll be talking with Blair. He's the co-owner of For Golf. The other owner is Matt. He won't be able to make it for the interview, but hopefully in the future he can make an appearance as we have those guys on more. So, yeah, excited to have Blair on, kind of talk about his background with golf, talk about their company a little bit. And, yeah, it'll be one of our first interviews that we have. And then the other one around golf as well is Josh Mayer. Those of you probably know him well on TikTok. He has a good following on there with his fun golf series that he does, golfing a par 4 with random ass objects. Yeah, excited to have him on as well. So, and then the third one is going to be more hockey related. So, but yeah, a lot of really tomorrow's going to be a busy day for us with interviews and stuff. Looking forward to that. And yeah, hopefully in the future we can kind of make it a once a week, if not twice a week thing where we start having people on.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it too. Everybody that we're bringing on the show here seems like they're awesome dudes. It's good to build that relationship with these guys, like you said. Hopefully we can continue to have them on the show. And yeah, I'm just excited. Can't wait.
Switching gears here. Going to the not MLB, the NBA next. What do you have for NBA news today?
So for the NBA, I got the James Harden. Turns out will be out 10 days with that hamstring injury that he had suffered the other day. Kevin Durant, however, will be back in the lineup tonight, so they're going to get a little bit of chemistry. KD and Kyrie. Some other big news, a record that was set last night by the Atlanta Hawks. They went 11 for 11 on 3-pointers in the third quarter last night. That is very impressive as a squad. Shout out to you guys. That's always great to see. And, yeah, did you have anything about the NBA?
Yeah, kind of sticking with the threes conversation. Steph Curry, everybody kind of knows him as arguably one of the best shooters that's ever been in the NBA. This week, he solidified himself as the first NBA player with at least 200 threes in 8 seasons. Obviously incredible what he's been able to do throughout his career. Being one of the smaller guys in the league, when I say smaller, he's like 6'2" or 6'3", so still a larger, a larger guy. But he's adapted the game. He's realized, hey, I have a love for the game of basketball. Um, I don't have the size to be down in the paint against these guys that are 7 feet tall. So I'm just gonna knock down threes, and as soon as I step across half court, you better be on me, otherwise I'm gonna drain it. So, um, yeah, awesome to see that out of him. Even though the Warriors are struggling this year, um,
They beat our Bucks
they
last
did
night.
beat the Bucks last night. Which I mean, if Curry goes off and has a good night, they have a chance to win. But just sucks that it kind of banks on him and him alone whether the Warriors are gonna win any game. So yeah, again, awesome for him. And then kind of a cool story. Um, Either yesterday or sometime this week, a man was at a jewelry store buying an engagement ring, and out of nowhere, Shaquille O'Neal, when the guy's going to pay for his engagement ring, steps in, says, "I got it," pays for it. So always cool to see. Uh, Really any professional athlete kind of paying it forward, obviously having the money to kind of do this kind of this stuff where they don't really blink at it, um, as far as like ticket items like this, unless it's a really expensive engagement ring. But still, yeah, awesome to see Shaq do that, and just a cool story to bring up with the NBA.
Yeah, shout out to Shaq. It's good to see people with that type of wealth. Not only these professional athletes, but just anybody with an abundance of wealth to do something nice for people who not. I'm not saying need it, but just don't have that abundance of money where it just makes their life a little bit easier. So shout out to you, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah. Any other points before we kind of wrap up with a couple segments here?
No, I just have quick little news. After the NCAA March Madness tournament has wrapped up here, congratulations to Luke Garza winning the Wooden Player of the Year, the 6'11", 265-pound freak from Iowa. Congratulations, man. You played a great season. You had a good year. It was Big Ten. You dominated. You kind of put Iowa on the map for basketball. I didn't really think Iowa was good at basketball until really you started hearing about yourself and playing. So shout out to you. Just a couple quick stats. What he finished up with the season. He averaged 24 points a game, 8.7 rebounds, 1.7 assists, and he had a 55.3% field goal percentage. So pretty good for the Garza. And then last little bit of news here, Tennessee Volunteers freshman Keon Johnson leaving school to enter the NBA draft. He was the sixth in the ESPN Top 100 coming into the season this year as recruited. So ESPN ranked him at number 6. He had a pretty good season. I don't need to go into his stats because no one really cares about college basketball unless it's March Madness. I mean, you like to see young guys have that confidence to go, but like we always talk about on the show, I feel like kids need that experience. They at least need 2 years. I feel like you should take experience of whether it's playing in like going from high school. If you don't want to go play college, play 2 years in the G League and then go try to make it in the NBA. Like for hockey, you have to play 2 years of juniors basically to be like qualified in a sort of sense. So kind of just gives you that experience with also playing with those guys that do have that skill, and you get to grow up a little bit too. You're not forced into the NBA. I think who's the last guy to do was that Kobe?
To go straight from high
High
school?
school to the NBA?
Yeah, at least the last notable guy. There might have been somebody between now and then, but they might have had a 1 or 2 year career, never really made anything out of it. But yeah, there's a lot of guys who have like a one and done college career. But yeah, Kobe's really the last, if not the only notable person to ever go straight out of high school. Oh, LeBron. He came straight out of high school, didn't he?
Shit, yeah. Um, yeah. Yes, he did.
Yeah,
There's
he had
actually
St.
wow.
Mary High School in Akron, straight
Dude,
to the
there's actually
Cavaliers.
quite a few that Kevin Garnett, Kobe, Jermaine O'Neal, Tracy McGrady, Tyson Chandler. Dude, you have so many Amari Stoudemire, so many guys. LeBron, like we said, Dwight Howard. Like,
Hmm.
damn.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now. There is quite the list of guys who came straight out of high school.
And they're good. They're all Hall of Famers pretty much.
Yeah, Kobe, Garnett, McGrady, Jermaine O'Neal,
Amari Stoudemire.
Dwight Howard, Sean Livingston. Huh. Wow. Yeah, I guess it's not. Well, it's not really. When I guess does it show when the most recent guy would have been?
They stopped that
2005.
rule. Yeah, because they stopped that rule, I want to say, after LeBron.
Yeah, it would have been
Unless Dwight Howard's younger than LeBron.
2 year. Yeah, or Dwight Howard would have been 2004, and then Lou Williams, 2005 would be the last really notable guy. Otherwise, J.R. Smith as well.
He went high school to pro?
Hmm?
He went high school to pro?
Oh, if it's the same, it says J.R. Smith. Let me click on it. Yeah, he's
Wow.
he's currently on the what does it look like? The Hornets, which apparently doesn't get any playing time because I didn't even know he was on the Hornets.
I thought he was out of the league after
I
he
thought he was too.
had his whole that meme of him
Oh,
with
where
the
the
fantasy passing it the wrong way
yeah,
or whatever, not taking the shot or something.
yeah,
I don't
where
remember
it's the end of the
exactly.
game, could have laid it up for the win and took it out because he thought that they were up. Um, yeah, just some news to finish up the end of the day here. Austin usually has his hockey segment. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Kind of some MLB news here. Shout out to Austin's dad. He's kind of giving us some news today for the MLB and kind of moving forward. If he keeps giving us news, I'll keep doing these segments. I'll just call them our MLB minute here. Mets get their first win of the season, and also on the Mets, Pete Alonso hits his 70th home run faster than any other player in history. Took him 220 games, which is 11 fewer than Aaron Judge. Jose Abreu hits his 200th home run and second grand slam of the season. Yesterday, Ryan McMahon of the Rockies hits 3 home runs in a single game, so very impressive there. In the AL Central, the Cincinnati Reds are off to a fast start, leading that division. And then lastly, with our Brewers, the Brewers get back in the win column last night 4-0 against the Cubs after their 3-game skid. They finish up their series with the Cubs this afternoon as they try to get back to 500. So that's kind of our MLB news for the day. What you got for hockey?
Just briefly here about hockey. I don't have really much to say today. My Flyers lost yesterday, so this point it's kind of pretty much a crapshoot if they're going to get in. No one really knows.
They're going to need
Don't
some
know how
help.
much. Yeah, I don't really know how much I'm actually going to watch the full games anymore. Seems like when I sit down and watch the full games, they lose. So I'm just not going to do that. Buffalo has won again. They beat the New Jersey Devils 5-3. Nothing else really. The Islanders beat the Capitals to now tie them for top of the East Division. That's pretty much the only big news. Colorado's running away with it. And you have Toronto running away with it. I mean, trade deadline's coming up here on Monday.
Next week.
Yeah, on Monday. So it will be interesting to see what teams make moves to really go for it at the end of the season, because teams are down to 12, 13 games left. So they're playing 52, and some teams are at 40 right now. So, yeah, some teams literally have 12 games left in the season. So there's 24 points out there remaining for most of these teams, more for most of them actually. And my Flyers right now are down 5 to Boston. So not looking good. Not looking good.
Yeah.
Disappointing year, man. They shit the bed so hard. So bad. COVID. I'm blaming it COVID. They were doing great until they had COVID. Kind of like the Baylor Bears situation, like what everybody's talked about with them through the season, how they were unstoppable, basically going to be undefeated until they hit COVID, and then they had COVID, and then they got their couple losses or whatever,
And then
and
they
then they
still win a championship anyway.
and then they get back to their true selves at the end, and look at how dominant they are.
Yeah.
It's like hockey season. There ain't that much time left because they jam-packed all these games in such a short span of time. It's going to be too late by the time you're back to your full selves. So,
Yeah.
hate to see it, but it's the way of the world. Hopefully we see a new team hoist the cup this year. Fuck Tampa.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting once the playoffs come. All these teams are going to be playing each other for the first time this year. So I feel like it's going to be some lopsided games to kind of start out until teams get used to each other. But yeah, definitely looking forward to it. It's only roughly, about a month away for a hockey
Well,
playoff start.
yeah, it's all depending on what happens with the Canucks with their whole COVID thing.
Oh, yeah, because they got to make stuff up.
Yeah, because they have 18 guys out, so you can't really play when you have 5 guys that are able to play.
Are the Canucks even in playoff contention?
I want to say they are. They are a great team. Last year they made the playoffs. They're a young team. Yeah, right now they
They're sitting in fifth.
8 points out. So 4 games. And they have 3 games in hand with Calgary because their game's postponed was postponed yesterday. So yeah, they're not going to be back. They postponed their games all week. Yep. So this whole week they're not going to be playing, and all these other teams are going to get another 3-4 games in on the schedule, 5 games in on the schedule. So by the time this week's over, they'll be about 4, 5, 6 games back of games played. So they're kind of put in their position, and they're putting themselves in the driver's seat basically of how it's going to go when everybody's back from this whole COVID issue, because they're basically going to have to win out to catch Montreal, Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Toronto, because those teams are hot right now. Especially, I want to say, Austin Matthews. For those of you who don't know who this stud is, he's from Phoenix, Arizona. Well, I don't actually know if he's from Phoenix, but he's from Arizona. U.S.-born hockey player. Potentially is going to depends on how long he plays and how long of a career he plays, if he can stay healthy and everything. But he's on pace to pass Patrick Kane for like points as an American all time. Like, this kid is a stud. He's the next up and comer. So I'd love to see him doing good. Toronto, especially the dumpster fire of media that it is to be there. For those of you who don't know about the NHL world, Toronto is basically the New York City or the Hollywood of the acting industry, where just the media is in a frenzy 24/7. The people are always on, like the people are on you 24/7. You don't really have any free time. You have a bad game, you're hearing about it all week long, that type of thing. So good for them to see them doing good this year. See if they can make it out of the first round. I don't know. It's been their curse.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got. And yeah, shout out, Dad. Thanks for the info.
Yeah. So that kind of wraps things up today. Thought it'd be a shorter episode, but it pretty much same as every other day. So um, always good to be able to talk for an hour, even if we feel like we only have 30 minutes of stuff to talk about. So um, yeah, keep an eye out for tomorrow, and Monday's episode as we start to drop some of the interviews from this week. Um, again, kind of the
We
end of the week here is going to be centered around golf and the Masters. So excited to talk about that.
and like we said, also depending on how we're feeling, we might drop a little bonus content for you guys and just drop that episode over the weekend, depending how we're feeling, depending how the interview goes, that type of thing. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if we can get those out for you guys. But thanks again for stopping in, watching the show. It's great to have you guys here. Continue to support, like, follow, subscribe, and yeah, happy Wednesday, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.